Hi, I am Pratim Ranjan Bose, and you are watching podcast with Pratim presented by Iravati Research and Communication Center or IRCC. I have with me retired Ambassador Sri Anil Trigunayat. We will discuss the return of President Donald Trump in the US and its impacts on global affairs. Sir, first question. President Trump wanted to end the Russia-Ukraine war. He was vehemently against China. Do you think he will step up the tariff war, or some reprieve on that is possible, or some kind of collaboration between the two is possible at that end? US-China relationship is extremely important for India to act as an alternate destination and other things. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pratimji, once again for inviting me to your famous podcast. What I gathered is, and I can tell you, I was in Russia recently for the World Eye discussion, where President Putin gave answers to a large number of questions. And one of the questions that was asked was about President Trump's repeated statements that he will end the Russia-Ukraine war in one day or whatever. May not be possible in one day. But President Putin's response to that was that the suggestions made by him need serious consideration. Means it was like he wanted to give due thought to it, even if you do not believe in they have their own reasons and compulsions for the continuation of the war. So definitely Trump will try, and Putin at that time also congratulated Trump directly through the very famous podium, which is World Eye. And as far as China is concerned, Trump's position was very clear. He wants to make America great again. For that purpose, he thought that the Chinese cheaper goods, the subsidies and other things were directly having an impact on the US economy. And therefore, more and more companies that were operating in China, he wanted them to come back, create jobs and do something. I think there is not going to be much change in that. So the tariff and trade war between China and USA will continue. And I saw it that some of their think tank people were repeatedly asking Russia also what will be their policy and what will be like that. Those kind of things were there. So we don't see a great change between Russia-China equation, nor do I see a great change between US and China position. It will possibly be more of what happened during the Trump 1.0. So that is something. Secondly, will he continue to support Taiwan cause as like the Biden and others did it? I have a little bit of a doubt, because personally I feel that Trump is not a warmonger. He is basically tries to bully countries, try to power project, try to extract as much as being a businessman through his deals. Famously, he makes in every which way. So even foreign policy for him is a deal maker, a deal making exercise in that sense. So we have to see his approach is very different. So he would perhaps not blindly provide assistance to Taiwan in order to create some kind of immediate rift there in the Indo-Pacific. But Indo-Pacific definitely will be an area of strategic focus for USA and will be there. Also, one gets a little bit of a feel that he's now today only, I saw a video and his statement, 10-point statement, how he's going to remodel or reshape the so-called deep state and corruption in that, on which he seems to be very much inclined. And as you know that the deep state is often credited with creating conflicts all over and problems. So if he is going to really revamp them to a great extent once he comes into power, we might see a bit more sobered Trump, more serious in the foreign policy, and perhaps wanting to leave a legacy. A legacy not with war, but possibly by extracting the maximum mileage for the Americans.
Thanks, sir. Just an interjecting thought on what you said about Russia-Ukraine, which is very important to us. I mean, it had a long history of 20 years from where US had been violating its initial promises on NATO geography and etc., and had been going on for pretty long on that. Just so its solution probably will come it has a different connotations. And secondly, the US itself is on a charm, is on a very serious charm. If we notice after the post-election comments of Kamala Harris, so we have not seen this kind of US. I don't remember. You may, as a diplomat, you may be knowing more, but
no, you're right.
So whatever Trump will do, there is no surety that things will not go back if the Democrats come again in power. And second,
yes,
and what they did, the Biden administration did, that sent shockwaves through across nations is of confiscating assets, right? So will the world go back, assuming President Trump will be doing a lot of things, but will the world immediately go back to the old position of trust?
well, I don't think that, personally, I always believe that it is very difficult to create trust among the competing superpowers. There is an inherent geopolitical, geoeconomic, geotechnological competition that will continue to play out. But as long as they can find, I always believed that if somehow USA and Russia were able to find some kind of a modus vivendi, not only the friend, not the friendship, I think they can address a lot of global issues without any issue. So if Trump is able to do that, because the first term he tried to do something with Russia, and his policy was essentially he thought that if he was able to wean away Russia from China by being friends with them, then possibly he can control China in a bit better way. That was his approach, but that was not allowed to be done by the deep state, so-called deep state, and we saw what happened during that period. But um, I would not discount his capabilities in trying to find some solution to both the wars, not only this war. But we'll have to wait and see exactly how it plays out. It is not. But on the other hand, I would like to say he's perhaps probably the only president in the history of the United States who has not only got the highest number of electoral colleges, but the popular vote. He has got the Senate, he has got the Congress. So now you can imagine all the three, plus the judiciary. So all the instruments of power in the country are red in the red today, Republicans. So therefore, it is quite, he will have an opportunity, if he plays his cards well, to possibly create some kind of legacy structures. It's possible. It depends on what kind of advisors eventually he has, what will be, how much he listens to them, because he's also known for firing people left and right in the previous administration, if you remember.
Little Mercurial.
There was no surety. So, yes. So, but whether the Democrats will go back, you see, the thing is that people have given a mandate clearly this time to Trump all the way. Not only this, which means they do somehow
When was
either
the
were so
last
thoroughly
time,
disgruntled.
sir, when was the last time any US president had such a mandate?
I don't recall any actually. There's a thing. There always been. I mean, there must be. I'm sure. I'm not. I don't recall immediately, but there have always been either the Senate will be Republican, the
Right.
Democrats will be there, or there will be just 51-49. That kind of a scenario in the Senate. I mean, very balanced. So it was always you needed some more votes from the other side. So bipartisan support was always extremely important to get through to various proposals, and so this is something I feel that he's got nearly everything on his side at the moment. It was not expected by anybody, but he got it. He could have won, but the other things also going the same way in his direction. indicates to a possibility of him not having any tough dealings with the Congress or the Senate. So
Yeah,
whether the Democrats will overturn everything, I doubt very much. It's very difficult. 4 years is a very long period. And there is always a certain consistency that goes on. Of course, they have their own policies. But let us see. Foreign policy, there may be changes, there may not be changes. In the most important thing for the American electorate and the American leadership is their domestic situation. So if he is able to turn around the economy, inflation is reduced, identity politics is taken care of, I think that he will be able to generate some confidence or deliver on the promises that he has made. So he's seen. I mean, I heard President Putin saying that his respect for Trump went up when, after being shot, he got up and he just showed the fist. I think that is a factor which played a great deal in this election as well.
yes, we are seeing history being created left and right, living in
Yes,
it might be difficult times, but it is also very interesting times.
interesting times, absolutely.
Sir, you said about Trump's approach, very transactional approach towards uh, policy and governance. In policy, he had been, even in security, if I may remember that about Afghanistan. So, President Trump wanted India to contribute in Afghanistan. So, he had always been saying that. He started saying about not NATO must contribute, right? It is not America's job to protect them. So, we can clearly get a financial direction. He wants to reduce America's expenditure and invest more money in his own economy and make his economy stronger.
Yeah.
The question is, where does India fit into this bill? In this, how will India, you think, will contribute? I mean, are we going to foot a bigger bill for Indo-Pacific security, or
Well,
what are
you see,
the?
yeah, I mean, this is President Trump, as you said, is very transactional in nature. But personally, I feel that every foreign policy is transactional because every country tries to extract the maximum mileage uh, for itself through every relationship, whether it is the US, whether Russia, with any other country. So each country tries to find the best bet for itself. So Trump is overtly known for doing that. He said he's not going to provide security for free. You got to pay for it. So, for example, if with Taiwan, he's saying the same thing that they must invest more on their own security, which means they'll be buying more arms from the USA rather than free funding. Similarly, other countries also, he'll have the same kind of a situation. NATO, the 2% budget, the GDP of every country, which he had tried to enforce, frankly, has come true now because they were forced to. And now that's the only geography which is somewhat worried about Trump's arrival. Rest, everybody seems to be okay. But the Europeans definitely are worried exactly what will happen because see, he is withdrawing from NATO. That will not happen. But he doesn't attach a great importance in a way to NATO the way the Democrats did, or the way the NATO expansion went on. And that's something I think he indirectly referred to, that if he was there, he would the war would not have happened. So, as far as India is concerned, I think we have to continue to invest in our own security. I've always believed that whenever there is a need for us, of course, Trump has openly supported India against Pakistan, against Bangladesh in recent times, wherever there are concerns were there. He even told Trudeau off about the issues that are raised there. So he has been very open and vocal, uh, especially perhaps he understands India's importance, that it is a strategic pivot for the US foreign policy in the region. So that is one reason. Secondly, he may genuinely be liking Prime Minister Modi and India. He feels, and he has often talked about it, which is also equally important in relationship. So we have to invest in our own security, not for the security for the others. We have two border, two and a half. We have to be always prepared for 2.5 wars, as they say, all the time. And the naval strength, our border strength, all that has to continue. Right now, we may have uh, somehow achieved some peace on the border with China, but that's not permanent. So you'll have to continue to do that. And we should not be expecting any third country to come and fight a war for us. So we'll have to continue to spend much and more and more. And by default, in that sense, uh, if need be, a stronger India can be beneficial to its partners.
So just pointedly, you are not expecting India to keep guarding the Indo-Pacific or some region on behalf of US or something like that?
Not on behalf of US, we are mainly considered a major power in the Indian Ocean. And so Indian Ocean is something that we protect ourselves and will continue to protect. For that, whatever expenditure is required, we'll do that. And I believe that the Americans also don't expect us to look after the security in the Pacific. Although some things are of our interest and the Malacca Straits and all that, that India will continue to do that. We will
So
have to
that in
continue
a
to.
way will reduce their expenditure.
That's what their calculation must be, I'm sure.
Okay.
A
Uh,
stronger India and the. Yeah.
you're saying something.
No, I was saying that a stronger India definitely gives a greater confidence to them.
Do you think that I mean, what was the issue with India gave a lot of orders to US during Biden's tenure? The G engines for Tejas, for example, and there are issues with its delivery. There are issues with delivery of some of the even German equipment, which are very important for our infrastructure. Now, uh, whether this was part of all those screw tightening and etc., or is it a genuine cause? I mean, the delays were genuine, and do you think anything will be done on that front?
Well, I also read a report that India is invoking the penalty clauses for the delays.
Yeah.
And yes, and that is right as far as the agreement goes. And this is something, which has been continuing. And it is not that the Americans have always been very eager to transfer the technology. There are wheels within wheels in the system. But hopefully, under Trump, this will be expedited. As soon as he takes over, I'm quite sure the top level discussions, other level, we have a large institutional metrics of cooperation between our countries. And I think that they will be continuing to work on that, and that should work out. Trump will definitely help expedite.
Biden administration issued a hell lot of sanctions, mostly against China and Russia, and lately on Indian companies. So this was probably the first direct action against India so far. India was preparing for that. Then a kind of a proxy diplomatic war has been initiated through Canada. That is what everyone say. And the last thing was creating a mess right at our doorstep. Whatever the reasons, ground reasons might have been there. I mean, I'm not saying Hasina was all good, but the mess that is created now is quite our concern. Now, what are your expectations on these fronts? Sanctions must go immediately.
Well, as far as the sanctions are concerned, then sanctions is also a favorite thing of President Trump. He also does not mind putting sanctions. He calls India as a tariff king. He has been doing that. He withdrew GSP benefits from India during his term. He also imposed some certain sanctions. He also invoked the CAATSA, which is the the third party, sanctions as far as Iran was concerned, not in the context of Russia, but in the context of Iran. And but since he is trying to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, that particular section will automatically become defunct in that sense, those sanctions. Once that materializes, therefore, then he'll have to, because see, whatever the solution going to happen to Russia-Ukraine war, sanctions will have to go. That is something and there are about more than 10,000 sanctions on the Russians. So that will be primary conditions for the Russians as far as the Western countries are concerned. So that is something that will go. Once that happens, then obviously the kind of sanctions that the Americans have tried to put on India, these 19 companies, with regard to collaboration with Russia, should come to an end. And those will have to be discussed. They will have an impact on the companies which are doing business, but the dual use technology and all that, India has always been keeping a very strong watch and has tried to avoid doing that. This also has its own geopolitical significance for us. Likewise, we have seen that the Democrats have also played a bit uh, dirty in our own neighborhood, knowing too well that if India is your global comprehensive strategic partner, then you must take into account the security concerns, the other concerns of India, because this was beneficial to them as well. But they tried to do it, in my view, in the context of China, containing China in Bangladesh, and then tried to promote. Plus, Sheikh Hasina obviously was not yielding to their requests that they wanted, and she was being seen a little more closely and to China. So they played it out there. But then in that bargain, what has come out was also a negative result for India, which you don't expect your friends to indulge in. Hopefully, that Trump will do something with this regard. What will he do is, uh, as far as the recently during Diwali greetings, he mentioned about the atrocities on minorities, including the Hindus, in a very detailed manner, which was not expected. But he did that. That means he was telling. Secondly, I believe that he's not too fond of Mr. Yunus also, who had completely aligned himself with the Democratic Party and their leaders. When he was recently in USA, he met Obama, Clinton Foundation, and everybody, those people, right, who also took credit basically for achieving, including Soros, for achieving what they did in Bangladesh. Bangladesh currently is in an unstable situation. It needs a lot of assistance and a lot of assistance from the United States as well, which was promised before that. So Trump will have to also see it is not a priority for him. Bangladesh is not a priority for him. I think in South Asia, only country which is a priority is India for him. So that will not be there. And if he considers India as a priority, he might see that India's interests are also not compromised while doing something, or unnecessary uh, problems that the minority communities are facing in Bangladesh are not continued. So that is something I'm sure he will try to do that whenever Mr. Yunus has already congratulated him, and we'll have to see how it eventually plays out. But let's not forget that every country, whether it is Trump, whether it is Biden, in their own policy framework, only want to serve their own national interest. And being a superpower, they want to dictate as well in different countries, different things. That is in the nature of it, and we have to learn to deal with it. So I always say that we'll have to have our own uh, policy, I would say, churn throughout, and keep thinking about what is good for us and how we can immunize this. The best remedy in your neighborhood to immunize these kind of shocks, political shocks, in my view, is to see to it that whatever you are investing in the country for the good of that country is seen by those people in the country, that it is for their own good. And that is extremely important. That's the only way that you can cultivate constituency at the popular level and that lasts longer, much longer. Of course, the politicians can provoke certain sentiments sometimes and can get away with it also, but those will be temporary problems. So, for a long term, because we have historic civilizational ties with all our neighbors, so I think that that's for us also a lot of homework to do. At the same time, I think that uh, our policy of non-reciprocal neighborhood first policy is an excellent policy. Eventually, it will pay dividends because people will realize once they are out of their immediate, euphoria of removing one leader or the other, they will realize the reality that which is the country that is standing by them, helping them, has stood by them. So that is something that comes back. But you need to be, as India, we need to continue to work on that. That's very, very important for us. I think that overall our relationship with Trump and his administration will face certain headwinds, no doubt. That will be especially in the realm of trade tariffs, some trade issues. But that will also help us in the way, because if he really goes head on with China, for that matter, in the trade war, then it is possible he'll like most companies to come back to America. Doing production in America is not cheap. They look an alternate place. An alternate place can then be India, which can become a part of the value supply chains, which is also one of the issues we are dealing in Quad. And the next Quad meeting, summit meeting, will be held in India in 2025. So President Trump might travel at that time to India. So I think that we have quite a long way, but we'll have to wait for the January 20th when he actually takes over. And then we'll have to carefully watch who are the people he's choosing to carry forward his policies. There are certain things that are very clear right now. Robert Kennedy, he said that he has been asked to revamp the whole healthcare system in the country. So they have the domestic challenges in the US, as you initially mentioned. And I think those are the ones I think he'll be seized with very urgently. As far as Russia-Ukraine war is concerned, that will definitely be his priority, at least because that he has been uttering all the time. So,
are we going to see any, kind of, say, any revision in this Panmunjom thing and this India-Canada diplomatic?
Well, as far as India-Canada is, I have my doubts we will have any improvement in relationship in near term. Because the Canadians, at least until next year, when the Canada goes to election, and I don't know what kind of government they're going to choose, elect, but that is something that will decide probably the course of the relationship with India. But India-US relations becoming closer does not necessarily mean US-Canada relations becoming weaker, because they have their own dynamic among those five countries, even if Trump may not like Trudeau very much. But at the same time, they have their own Five Eyes or whatever it is. So we'll have to eventually see there are a lot of things, but Trump is known to be an out-of-box surprises he gives. So you never know, anything can happen. He has already commented on Trudeau's handling of the issue, the attacks on the temple and all
At
that.
times, his handlings are more, he is from the American side, he is somewhat closer to Modi's elements, taking things a little personally than following the.
He definitely likes Prime Minister Modi a lot, and I think Prime Minister Modi also likes him a lot. He remembers very fondly the Texas and the India where he saw 100,000 people cheering him. Now, that is something that doesn't happen in the US, for politicians at least. So those kind of memories. Plus, he does understand that India is a very important emerging country. He talks about it. He knows it's the biggest democracy. He knows
Also,
that
it's a
this is
fact that before this, the Indian American votes were largely going to the Democrats.
Yes, this time because of the
So a constituency has been
Democrats.
created for Trump.
No, this time you'll be surprised that, I mean, whatever I have analysis so far, I don't know each vote, but whatever one has seen, that surprisingly, Trump has been supported even in Michigan by the Arab and Muslim voters,
Yeah.
by the Hindus, by the Indians, and even by Latinos, even though he is anti-immigrant. But they understand at least that his policy is well known. So even if on the immigration front, legal immigration wouldn't be a problem as much as the illegal immigration. That is something he'd like to prevent. And that is a buzzword. He thinks that is directly connected to to employment in his country or security of the country. Now, obviously, that's the fundamentals. You can't change those. On the issue of tariffs, he's a businessman. He wants to have the best market access possible at the least cost to him. So that he'll continue to pursue. And those are the things that we'll have to create our own guardrails for these kind of things. So it's now Trump 1.0. I believe that Trump 2.0 will possibly be a far more predictable than 1.0 was.
Then releasing those ultimatums for a mere chloroquine.
Yes. Well, that is his nature. That is it. That's the way he is, But I mean, you could have never
And
imagined
when
an
he got the
American president.
chloroquine, he was so happy with with India.
Yes.
I believe
No,
I believe Mr. Modi
he
also managed some reprieve for our drug companies in the process.
well, India has done extremely well. I mean, in the drug company, what we did in the vaccine battery, I think something that was amazing. There are people who did not like us very much. Also, acknowledge the fact that what India did was no other country could have done or has done that way. So I think that that's what Indian companies are. That's where in the Quad, our focus basically is on these key issues, which are also our strengths.
Sir, will Quad be strengthened?
Well, I thought, if you remember, that the Quad started during his time, the
Exactly.
foreign minister
Yeah,
level and all that. But so he will come here, and I'm quite sure he understands the Quad is for him is will probably be a good instrument, of increasing cooperation among the like-minded democracies. So that's how he'll look at it, and strategically also. At the end of the day, he'll have a good team, and the team, what kind of team he picks up. USA also suffers from the spoil system. So those who support you, then you give them jobs and special positions and all that. Now those people also have a great importance and difference. Now you are talking of China. Elon Musk is very much invested in China also.
exactly.
So he was there recently. So
And Trump
we don't know
invited Elon
really.
Musk to take some
Yes,
role in the government.
not really. He was the one who's been basically running the election throughout and
Yeah,
invested in Trump's this thing. He's greatly responsible to a great extent also to this. And so Robert Kennedy has been again another one. So there are people whom he will depend on a great deal. And I think that there are 4 or 5 Indian origin people who are also in the race for getting some important positions.
yeah.
So and then
Raj
there
Patel.
will be specialists. Yes, he is there. Nikki Haley is there. Tulsi Gabbard is another one. Ramaswamy is there. So there are these people whom I think that they will also see. And at the end of the day, Pratimji, I believe that we have to make our own country strong. And if India is strong, everybody else will come to you. That's it. And we are benign power, and everybody understands that. And I think that with a good economy and a good defense and good democratic credentials, we are all set.
So, in the end, I mean, probably we got a 4 year window of less friction. We could more predictable times than what it was for last 4 years was very unpredictable. So that's a good side. Insofar as Mr. Trump is concerned, we have one example in UK where the Labour Party came by landslide majority, and in 100 days the Prime Minister was at the bottom of the approval rating. So
Yes.
so we have to see what happens. I think we can end at that note. Thank you, sir. Thanks for giving time.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure talking to you.